The Prilorians tortured and butchered entire alien civilizations for thousands of years until they fucked with the wrong species, humanity. For millennia, the tyrannical Prilorian Empire ruled the stars, enslaving dozens of alien races and crushing any resistance with superior tech and brutal tactics. Trillions suffered under their cruel reign while the galaxy turned a blind eye. But that was about to change. The year was 2547. Starship Captain Wayne Young patrolled near a disputed border in his state-of-the-art human Galactic Republic vessel. Suddenly, a distress call. An alien transport ship under Prilorian attack. "This is a direct violation of the Zebulon Accords," the transport captain pleaded on comms as Prilorian warships closed in. "We're a medical relief mission. They're jamming our drives. We can't jump to FTL." Wayne gripped his command console, jaw tight. Against orders, he couldn't ignore this injustice, but engaging the Prilorians head-on would be suicide. His mind raced through strategies until... "Arm the EMP missiles and ready electronic warfare suite," Wayne ordered his crew. "We're going to disable those Prilorian ships." With lightning speed, Wayne's vessel launched a volley of specialized missiles. The projectiles detonated in sequence, unleashing focused electromagnetic pulses. The Prilorian ships went dark as their systems overloaded. "Target their weapons and engines with the ion cannon. I want surgical strikes only," Wayne barked to his gunner. Blue lances of ionic energy speared the enemy ships, frying circuits and reactor shielding. "Prilorian vessels, this is Captain Wayne Young of the human galactic ship Athos. Stand down immediately or be destroyed," he broadcast on all frequencies. The Prilorians knew they were outmatched. Shields down, primary systems failing, they limped away in retreat. Wayne had saved the alien transport without destroying the aggressors and risking all-out war. He made contact with the relieved aliens, who identified themselves as Talari. A tearful alien woman named Ilara appeared on the view screen. "Thank you, Captain Young," Ilara said between sniffles. "We owe you our lives. The Prilorians have enslaved my people for generations. They've slaughtered millions and stripped our worlds bare." Wayne listened, his heart heavy, as Ilara recounted stories of Prilorian atrocities, torture, massacres, razed cities. His disgust grew with each grim tale. Ilara said they were on a desperate mission to other free worlds, to beg for help. "I promise you I will bring evidence of the Prilorians' crimes to my superiors," Wayne said. "What they're doing to your people and others is evil. The human government will put a stop to it." But Wayne's commanders cared little for the Talari's plight. He was reprimanded harshly for violating orders and risking conflict with the powerful Prilorian Empire over some unimportant aliens. "Our policy is not to interfere with the Prilorians' internal affairs as long as human interests aren't threatened," his admiral said coldly. "This is bigger than you, Captain. The Prilorians are too strong. We can't protect every hard-luck species out there. You're lucky I don't demote you." Wayne stormed out, his ideals shaken, but his resolve hardened. He couldn't let this injustice stand. The Prilorians had to be exposed. Discreetly, Wayne reached out to contacts and informants across the galaxy, including Ilara. Piece by piece, account by account, he compiled records detailing the true depths of Prilorian tyranny. Entire worlds decimated, populations bound into slavery, bloody massacres of the innocent. If brought to light, the evidence would shock the public and move the government to action. As whispers spread of a human captain defying the Prilorians, and spark of rebellion ignited in the hearts of the subjugated, the downtrodden dared to hope, and the Prilorian overlords grew enraged that a lesser species would dare challenge their supremacy. An unseen war raged in the shadows. Prilorian agents hunted for the source of the unrest. Threats and tensions built between the Prilorians and humans. And at the center, one man risked his life and career to unmask the face of evil before the fragile peace shattered. The fate of billions hung in the balance as both sides teetered on the precipice of total war. For if the humans fell, who would stand against the Prilorians? The battle for the future, was about to begin. Wayne couldn't let the Prilorians' atrocities stay hidden any longer. He had to act fast. Discreetly, he started assembling a tight-knit team for a secret mission into the heart of Prilorian space. His first call was to Zach, his trusted first officer and a shrewd intelligence operative. "Zach, I need your help. We're going to expose the Prilorians for the monsters they are." "I'm in, Captain," Zach replied without hesitation. "Whatever it takes." Next, Wayne recruited Ted, a brilliant but quirky engineer known for his unorthodox solutions. "Ted, we need your expertise. We're infiltrating a Prilorian outpost." Ted's eyes lit up at the challenge. "Oh, I've got some ideas for that. Count me in." Using rebel contacts provided by Alara, they secured a captured Prilorian shuttle. The sleek craft would be their ticket past enemy defenses. After intense preparation, the team launched their daring mission. They approached the targeted outpost, a heavily guarded installation housing a wealth of Prilorian data. "Prilorian Patrol, this is Shuttle Zeta-9 requesting permission to dock," Wayne said over the comms, disguising his voice. "Permission granted, Zeta-9. Transmit authorization code," the Prilorian officer replied. Zach punched in the stolen code and held his breath. A tense moment passed. "Code verified. You may proceed to docking bay 3. They were in. Wayne expertly maneuvered the shuttle into the bay, where they emerged in convincing Prilorian armor. "Ted, slice into the database mainframe," Wayne ordered as they slipped into the outpost corridors. "Zach, watch our backs." With a few quick taps, Ted bypassed the security and started downloading a massive trove of files, terabytes of damning evidence. Just as the progress bar neared 100%, alarms blared. Red lights flashed through the halls. "Alert! Security breach detected in data center. Intruders suspected," a robotic voice announced. Pulse pounding, the team grabbed the data drive. Wayne and Zach drew their weapons, ready to fight their way out. A door hissed open. A group of Prilorian soldiers stormed in, energy rifles aimed. "Halt! Surrender now!" The team opened fire. Blasts of plasma streaked back and forth across the chamber. Wayne ducked behind a console as searing bolts scorched the wall above him. Zach dropped 2 Prilorians with expert shots. Ted frantically worked to seal the doors and buy time. More troops flooded into the room, firing relentlessly. The team was outnumbered and pinned down. Options were running out. "Captain, I've got an idea," Ted yelled over the chaos. "I can overload the shuttle reactor remotely. Create a distraction." "Do it!" Wayne shouted back, blasting another Prilorian. Ted keyed in a sequence on his wrist computer. Moments later, a deep boom shook the outpost. The bay erupted in flames. Seizing the opening, Wayne and his men charged forward, gunning down the disoriented Prilorians. They sprinted through the crumbling corridors back to the hangar. The shuttle was a burning wreck. Alarms screamed. The outpost was tearing itself apart. "There! That patrol craft!" Zach pointed to a small Prilorian ship. They piled in and rocketed out of the disintegrating bay. Fiery debris pelted their shields. The shockwave flung them clear of the outpost into open space. Wayne pushed the engines to full throttle. "Set course for human space now!" Prilorian warships closed in fast. The small craft shuddered under a barrage of incoming fire. Warning lights flashed across the controls. "Shields failing, hull breach imminent," Zach reported. "Almost there," Wayne gritted his teeth. "Come on, hold together." With a final burst of speed, they crossed the border. The Prilorian pursuers broke off, not daring to enter human territory. Not yet. The damaged ship limped on, engines sputtering. It lost power completely above the barren plains of a remote frontier colony. They braced for impact. The craft slammed into the ground hard, skidding and kicking up a cloud of dust. The team emerged bruised and shaken, but alive, and with the priceless data intact. Wayne plugged the drive into a battered terminal and started poring through the files. His eyes widened in horror at the staggering atrocities cataloged within. Planets razed, billions enslaved, genocides on a scale unimaginable, cruel experiments, forced labor. The Prilorians were monsters. But amid the terror, he found something else. Casualty projections, fleet deployments, invasion plans. The Prilorians wanted to exterminate humanity and claim their worlds, all laid out in chilling detail. Humanity had to be warned. This couldn't stay buried. Wayne compiled the most critical evidence into a report and prepared to bring it to the Alliance government. But when he presented his findings to High Command, he was met with resistance. Some officials, afraid of provoking the Prilorians, wanted to downplay and suppress the information. "Captain Young, these are serious allegations, but we can't rush to conclusions," one admiral said. "Openly accusing the Prilorians could start a war we can't win." They shuffled Wayne out of the briefing room. Hushed whispers trailed him down the hall. He knew what he had to do. Wayne contacted the biggest media outlets across human space. Within hours, the story broke to the public. Every screen and holo was filled with images of Prilorian brutality. The people were outraged, horrified. They demanded action. Marches and demonstrations erupted on 100 worlds. The embers of rebellion spread to the subjugated races. Inspired by the humans' defiance, they took up arms. Ilara and her contacts launched guerrilla attacks and uprisings. The Prilorian grip was starting to loosen. Knowing their plans were exposed, the Prilorians placed their invasion forces on high alert. Warships, troop carriers, and weapons of mass destruction were readied. If they couldn't rule the galaxy, they would burn it down. The lines were drawn. The human fleets marshaled to face the oncoming Prilorian armada. The end was coming, one way or another. Wayne stood on the bridge of his battlecruiser, staring out at the endless starfield. It had all led to this. The Prilorians had to be stopped, no matter the consequences. He thought of all the lives lost, all those still chained and screaming to be free. Now was humanity's moment. Now they would light the spark. They would break the old order. The future was coming, a future free from the blood-soaked fist of tyrants. No more darkness, no more hiding. A new dawn was on the horizon, and this was how it began. The public outcry was deafening. Protests erupted across human space as citizens demanded action against the Prilorian atrocities. Government officials scrambled to respond, holding emergency sessions broadcast on every channel. "We cannot stand idly by while innocents suffer," declared the president of the Human Alliance. "As of this moment, we are at war with the Prilorian Empire." Wayne Young stood at attention as a general pinned Admiral stars to his collar. "Congratulations, Admiral. You'll be leading our new 5th Fleet against the Prilorians. Make us proud." Wayne wasted no time assembling his armada. He pored over schematics of experimental weapons systems and cutting-edge warship designs. Ted grinned as he showed off prototypes for next-gen ion cannons and quantum disruptors. "These beauties'll cut through Prilorian shields like they're tissue paper," the engineer boasted. Zach coordinated with intelligence assets, mapping Prilorian defenses and supply lines. Wayne's old crew worked tirelessly to prepare the fleet for the coming storm. Meanwhile, rebellion ignited across Prilorian space. Ilara's forces struck hard and fast, liberating slave camps and arming the oppressed. Viral messages spread hope to billions. "The humans are coming. Freedom is near. Rise up." Prilorian commanders received frantic reports of uprisings on dozens of worlds. Their iron grip was slipping. Wayne's fleet jumped into Prilorian territory, catching them completely off guard. Human ships rained plasma fire on orbital shipyards, vaporizing hulls and fuel reserves. Precision strikes crippled weapons factories and command centers. Ted's electronic warfare suites jammed Prilorian comms and sensor grids. The once mighty empire flailed blindly as Wayne's forces cut through their defenses. The Prilorians lashed out in desperation, brutally crushing alien revolts. But for every rebellion they stamped out, 2 more sprang up. Their military was stretched to the breaking point. It all came down to a pivotal battle over the Prilorian throne world. Wayne's flagship, the Defiant, faced off against the massive Imperial dreadnought. Swarms of fighters clashed as the capital ships traded thunderous broadsides. The Defiant's hull buckled under the onslaught. Fires raged through the decks as life support failed. Wayne knew they couldn't last much longer. All power to engines, he ordered. Ram that bastard. The Defiant surged forward, antimatter reactors howling in overload. It slammed into the dreadnought at relativistic speed. A blinding explosion consumed both vessels. In the aftermath, Wayne's surviving crew was rescued from escape pods. Word of his sacrifice spread like wildfire, inspiring the Alliance to press on. Within months, the last Prylorian holdouts surrendered. A wave of liberation swept across the galaxy as slaves cast off their chains. On 1,000 worlds, fireworks lit up alien skies. On Earth, crowds thronged the streets in an enormous victory parade. A towering hologram of Wayne Young smiled down as he was posthumously awarded the Star of Terra, humanity's highest honor. Alara stood on the grand stage alongside human and alien leaders. She gazed out at the sea of faces, human, Talari, and a dozen other species united in celebration. Today marks a new era, she proclaimed. Together we will build an interstellar republic founded on freedom and justice for all. The crowd roared its approval. A new dawn had come at last, and it all began with one man who refused to look away from injustice. Wayne Young's legacy would light the way forward into a brighter future for all. As the cheers echoed across 1,000 worlds, the newly formed Interstellar Republic got to work. The task of rebuilding after centuries of Prylorian oppression was daunting, but hope burned bright in the hearts of billions. Admiral Zack stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Defiant II. He gazed at the holographic display showing the liberated systems. So much had changed in so little time. The loss of his mentor and friend Wayne Young still stung, but Zack was determined to honor his sacrifice. "Sir, we're detecting unusual activity in the Orion sector," a young officer reported. Zack frowned. "Show me." The display zoomed in on a cluster of outer colonies. Red warning indicators flashed across multiple worlds. "Prylorian loyalists," Zack growled. "They just won't give up." Over the next weeks, the attacks intensified. On New Terra, a massive explosion tore through a spaceport, killing thousands. Refugees on Proxima 3 were slaughtered when their camp was hit with nerve gas. Zack pounded his fist on the war room table. "How are they doing this? We crushed their military." Alara's face appeared on the monitor, her expression grim. "Admiral, my team has uncovered disturbing intel. The Loyalists are being led by Overlord Kraxus. He's acquired a stockpile of bioweapons from the old regime." Zack's blood ran cold. "If those weapons are unleashed..." "Exactly," Alara nodded. "We need to take him out fast." The hunt was on. Republic fleets scoured the outer systems, engaging Prylorian holdouts in vicious battles. On Tau Ceti IV, Marine dropships descended through AA fire to assault a fortified bunker. Plasma bolts crisscrossed the air as the Marines advanced under heavy fire. Despite their superior numbers and firepower, the Republic forces struggled against the Prylorians' fanatical resistance. The Loyalists knew every nook and cranny of their strongholds, ambushing Republic troops at every turn. Zack watched the casualty reports pile up with growing frustration. They were winning, but at a terrible cost. Then Alara's team made the breakthrough they desperately needed. "We've pinpointed Kraxus's location," she reported. "He's holed up in an underground fortress on Sigma Prime. My team is moving to infiltrate now." Zack nodded grimly. "Understood. The fleet will be ready to strike on your signal." Alara led her commandos through the winding tunnels of the Prylorian bunker. They moved silently, taking out sentries with well-placed shots. At last, they reached the central chamber. "Zack, we're in position," Alara whispered into her comm. "Light it up." The bunker shook as Republic warships unleashed a devastating orbital bombardment. Alarms blared as Alara's team stormed the chamber. Prylorian guards opened fire, filling the air with plasma bolts. Alara dove for cover, returning fire. Her team fought with desperate intensity, knowing the stakes. Through the chaos, Alara spotted Kraxus at a control panel. The Overlord's hands flew over the controls, preparing to unleash his doomsday weapons. Time seemed to slow. Alara raised her rifle, took careful aim, and squeezed the trigger. The shot caught Kraxus square in the chest. He crumpled to the floor, dead before he hit the ground. With their leader fallen, the remaining Prilorians quickly surrendered. The long nightmare was finally over. Weeks later, Admiral Zack stood before a solemn gathering. Before him sat the last of Kraxus's bioweapons, ready for final deactivation. Today, we close a dark chapter in galactic history, Zack declared. But we also open a new one of peace, of cooperation, of liberty for all sapient beings. This is the future Wayne Young dreamed of. This is the future we'll build together. With that, he pressed the button. The weapons crumbled to dust, never to threaten innocent lives again. A new era had truly begun. Years passed, and the scars of war began to fade. The Interstellar Republic flourished, its worlds thriving in an era of unprecedented peace and cooperation. On New Terra, Admiral Zack stood before a vast holographic display, surveying the tranquil expanse of Republic space. A satisfied smile played across his weathered features. But the peace was shattered as his aide burst into the room, face pale with urgency. "Sir, we've got a situation." Zack's smile vanished. "What is it?" The aide's hands shook as he handed over a datapad. "Intelligence reports, sir. A new threat." Zack's eyes widened as he scanned the information. Reports of a fringe cult, preaching the Prilorian way, and vowing to resurrect the fallen empire. At first, he dismissed it as the ravings of delusional fanatics. But as he dug deeper, a chill ran down his spine. In a secret briefing room, Zack gathered his inner circle. "This cult is more dangerous than we thought," he said, voice grim. "Their leader is a former Prilorian scientist named Turvax. He's gotten his hands on bioweapon data from the old regime." The room erupted in alarmed murmurs. Zack raised a hand for silence. "We need to act fast. I want every available resource dedicated to tracking down these cultists." But they were too late. As the Republic mobilized, Turvax struck. On a dozen worlds, suicide cultists slipped past security checkpoints. They carried vials of a deadly virus, engineered to target non-Prilorian DNA. On the bustling spaceport of Novus Prime, a cultist smashed a vial in the crowded terminal. The virus spread like wildfire. Within hours, the streets were choked with the dead and dying. Similar scenes played out across Republic space. Zack watched in horror as reports flooded in. Millions infected. Entire cities under quarantine. The virus burned through populations, leaving only Prilorians unscathed. On Alara's homeworld, hospitals were overwhelmed. She worked tirelessly, moving from patient to patient. But for every life she saved, a dozen more slipped away. The anguished cries of the dying haunted her dreams. Zack pounded his fist on the war room table. "We need to end this now. All ships, set course for Kairos. We're taking out Turvax's base." The Republic fleet dropped out of hyperspace above Kairos, but as they approached the cultist stronghold, they met fierce resistance. Suicide ships rammed into Republic cruisers, erupting in antimatter explosions. On the ground, Black Talon shock troopers fought their way through waves of fanatical cultists. The air was thick with plasma fire and the screams of the wounded. Step by bloody step, they pushed toward Turvax's mountain bunker. Alara led the final assault, her face set with cold fury. They blasted through the bunker's defenses, cutting down cultists with ruthless efficiency. At last, they reached Turvax's inner sanctum. The mad scientist stood before a bank of plague warheads, ready to unleash a final wave of devastation. Alara raised her rifle, but Turvax's finger hovered over the launch controls. "For the glory of the Prilorian Empire!" Turvax screamed, reaching for the button. Alara's team opened fire, their shots tearing into Turvax's body. But even as he fell, his hand slammed down on the controls. Warning klaxons blared as the warheads armed themselves. "Antimatter device now," Alara shouted. A Black Talon trooper tossed a small sphere into the room. Alara and her team sprinted for the exit as a blinding white light engulfed everything behind them. The mountain shook as the antimatter reaction vaporized Turvax, his cult, and the plague warheads in an instant. With the immediate threat neutralized, the Republic turned its full might to combating the virus. Using Turvax's captured research, they worked around the clock to develop a vaccine. But for millions across the galaxy, it came too late. On a solemn day, Admiral Zack stood before a sea of mourners. Countless holograms flickered, showing similar gatherings on worlds across Republic space. He took a deep breath and began to speak. Today, we remember those we've lost, and we vow that such evil will never again threaten our people. From this day forward, we will root out any trace of Prylorian ideology with unwavering grit. We will do whatever it takes to keep our citizens safe. As Zack spoke of increased security and harsher measures, Alara listened with growing unease. The fire that once drove her seemed to sputter and die, smothered by the weight of so much death and loss. In the days that followed, Alara watched as the Republic she had fought so hard to build began to change. Security forces conducted raids, rounding up anyone suspected of Prylorian sympathies. Freedoms were curtailed in the name of safety. The methods used to root out dissent began to echo those of the very regime they had overthrown. Alara stared out at the stars, feeling the crushing weight of all they had endured. With a heavy heart, she drafted her resignation from Republic service. As she looked to an uncertain future, she couldn't help but wonder, in their zeal to prevent another Prylorian atrocity, had they become the very thing they once fought against?
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.